So we have Annil here. You're the regional director at Recruitment Entrepreneur for Middle East and Asia, visiting us here in Dubai. So I guess you've lived in Dubai previously back in the 90s. So I think we'll be keen to understand what the differences are. I imagine there are massive differences between living here back in the day versus now.
Thanks, Martina. Yes, it seems like second home to me, to be honest. I spent a lot of times traveling back and forward, but in 97 was probably the first time I moved out here. And it was on the back of starting up a recruitment business in this region. If you look at 97 and where obviously Dubai is today, it's a completely different picture. I think there was one office, the World Trade Center. That's where our offices ended up being. And the rest of it is pretty much sand. There wasn't a lot more. Also, there's been quite a few changes just in the way you operate, so we had a local partner because there was no other way to set up in this region, which has obviously changed now. And there were some cultural differences way back then, which has also changed. So it's been great seeing it, pre sort of the big bang and change that's happened in Dubai and some of the other Emirates. But there's definitely more opportunity here now than there was back in the day. You had to take a leap of faith to make that move back in the day. But certainly it's a much easier place to work and operate now.
So why did you decide to move there back in 97?
Opportunity, really. So a business I joined after 6 years of my career in the UK. I joined a boutique SAP recruitment company. We originally went to Houston because we used to service the oil and gas market. So we moved out to Houston. I spent about 6 months with the business out there. For some reason, we decided we U-turned. We didn't continue in the USA. And then I sort of saw quite a lot of prospecting happening in Middle East and Asia. We did a bit of a recce trip, this way to see, where should we be based. Obviously, the tax-free benefit helps. And then the local partnerships and the fact that businesses in the oil and gas space here were looking for technology people and specifically SAP. That's how we ended up partnering, with a local partner here. And we ended up opening an office.
Okay, and how long did you live here for?
I was here for a year. The main reason why I decided to step back into the UK was the business got sold. And that gave me the opportunity to see, at a very early stage of my life, an opportunity to work with a business that did get sold. And I returned back to the UK and then decided, hey, I can do it myself. Mm-hmm. And in 99 is when I started up my own recruitment company.
Okay, so I guess I'd be keen to understand and kind of rewind to the start of your recruitment career. And I know you've done a few very exciting things in your career with, setting up businesses and now being at Recruitment Entrepreneur. So just keen to understand, I guess, the timeline of your career.
How much time do you have? So I started my career in 92. You can probably tell by the grey hairs on my face. Fell into it by chance, I think, like most recruiters do. I am an IT graduate. I was programming for a year after graduating. I hated it. I won't tell you the language I used to program in because you probably have never heard of it. But I got to a point where I was just not enjoying what I was doing. And it was actually quite an interesting inflection point for me personally. I never really felt that UK was the only place I was going to end up working. Mm-hmm. So I took a break. I came to India at that time. And I had an IT degree in my back pocket. IT was doing really well. And I decided to look for work in India because IT was just on this massive boom. I did get an offer from IBM.
Okay.
Because I'm a foreigner, coming to work in India, it was an expat package at my first job, proper job. But it was coding. So I went back to the UK and I decided I'm going to give myself 6 weeks, see if I can find something I really want to do. And hey, behold, I got a job in recruitment. It was a company called Computer Futures.
Okay.
So Computer Futures is, I guess, the mother of S3. Mm-hmm. That's where S3, came as its origins. So I joined that business. It's pretty small at that time. It's about 35 people, and spent most of my, sort of early years, as you do, starting as an associate or a resourcer, learning the trend. But very quickly went through the ranks. Ended up in technology and contract recruitment, and specifically SAP. And I ended up running a large part of the London contracts team for Computer Futures. Then I got headhunted out, is when I ended up in the US. So I went to Houston with a business who wanted to open up an office in Houston doing SAP recruitment. So that was a very quick start for me, moving out my comfort zone, moving to a new country. And that then led me to Dubai, which was the 1 year stint we did in 97. But I think by that point, as a lot of us as recruiters, once you've done about 7 or 8 years of recruitment experience, you think you can do it better and you want to do it for yourself. And obviously you want to make sure you keep as much of the income to yourself. And in 99, I decided, with a friend of mine, to start up my first recruitment company. Again, technology probably wasn't the best time. 99 going into 2000, it was a recession period. So it probably wasn't the best time, but we took the leap of faith. We did it and we did pretty well. And spent 10 years running that.
Yeah.
Realized, got a bit bored, because it was a lot more of a lifestyle business rather than something that you set out. But it was a good lifestyle. Earned really well out of it. Had some great people, go through the business. We opened up in the USA. We were looking at growing, but then we hit a second financial crash and we had a dot-com boom and bust through those 10 years. And it just felt like it became very difficult. And I decided at that point, I'm going to step away, from that business. So I did an exit. I wouldn't say it was a significant exit, from the business. Wish I'd known about what I know today, because the exit probably would have been worth, some money in my back pocket. And then I returned back to S3.
Okay.
By chance, got talking with the then chief strategy officer, and they were growing globally. And S3 at that point was 2,000 people, 25 plus countries, and they were just looking at new countries and new territories, and they wanted to enter India. So I did a bit of consulting with them just to help them open up. Then they turned around and said, well, we'd like you to go to India to do it for us. Packed my bags, 2 children, wife, and everybody. We decided to move. But it was probably one of the best moves, I would say, I've personally done in my life. Why? One, because I really wanted to be in India and I wanted to sort of give something from my international experience back into the Indian marketplace. Secondly, it was a difficult market to come into because it was still an unstructured recruitment sector. And I had the backing of a very big business, which was great. So I didn't have to worry too much of financially or in terms of the structuring or the infrastructure that we're setting up. But it was more about the front end, business development, and how do you open the doors, how do you build those relationships. That was quite tough because what we were bringing to the market as the brand Huxley at that time into India was professional recruitment. And in India at that time, there's only 2 types of recruitment available. There was executive search, typical executive search companies, and then there was volume hiring.
Yeah.
And the 2 ends of the spectrum were, that's 30% plus fees, and that was 8.33%.
And you were somewhere in the middle.
And we were stuck in the middle, exactly that. So we almost had to create our space at that time. And it was difficult, I have to say. The early stages of that business was quite difficult. Spent a couple of years, with the business. We launched, we were operational in 2 cities. We built out a back office solution to support, funnily enough, recruitment in oil and gas for our Dubai business and the Middle East business. So we had a back-end support resourcing function that we built out in India. And then I did something very similar for another recruitment business called K2 Partnering.
Yep.
That was another 2-year project I did for them to launch and start in India. Again, went very, very well. By this time, 2 years in, we'd learned more, we understood better. That was more contracting. And we grew that business very, very fast, albeit on the back of 2 major clients that we had. So that then really just gave me that extra bit of boost of confidence to say, I know what I'm doing now and I can do this again. So that's where I went into my second entrepreneurial stint. And in 2015, I decided I want to go again. We opened up a remote first business. So it was no offices, didn't have the heavy cost of infrastructure.
In 2015.
It wasn't. But we felt the market was already changing. The way of work was already changing. We saw a lot of experienced and senior recruiters leave the industry. Leave the industry because they didn't want to go into central city locations. They wanted a bit more out of life than just going in and out of the rat race of office, work. They probably had some other responsibilities in life where family, children, and so on. They wanted to experience more of life rather than just work. So we had a really good captive audience to say that's who we're going to go after. And we found some really good people. And very quickly, the business grew. That then led me into my first opportunity in tech. And I think this will resonate with a lot of recruiters. You know, you see an opportunity and you feel that you can actually piggyback that because it's a great skill, you know, to add to your business, number one. And number two, if you can really make it big in tech, you're going to be, you know,
Yeah.
billionaire, right? One day, right?
You become a tech founder from sort of being
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
recruiter.
And I have to say, it's probably one of the best and worst learnings of my life. Best because out of my comfort zone, doing something, although I understood technology and I've always been with technology,
Yeah, you were
but
in quite good position with your degree and everything
you
as
say, you
well.
say that, right? But then when you've been recruiting in technology and then you're actually coding, it's completely two
Yeah.
different things. So when you've been out of it for 25 plus years, you know, not being a coder, you understand the basics, but coding's changed massively,
Of
you know, through that
course.
period. So we went to the table with a piece, you know, with an idea, and the idea was very simply, we are a remote working business. At that time, we were struggling to engage with our people and our team because everybody were sitting at home or in a co-working space or a cafe. How do we create that culture in our business? Because we had people sitting in the north of England, we had somebody sitting in Italy, we had a lady working out of Florida. So how do we keep them all feeling like they were part of the same business? So we said, could we create a virtual office online where visibly you can see your team sitting in an office? You can pop over, you can tap them on the shoulder, you can say hi, you can have a chat, you can switch your video on, you can invite your clients in, the client gets to see your business.
Yeah.
So we created this virtual office. We were ahead of the curve, you know, when we did it. So we were quite confident that we've created something quite unique, but we didn't build it to take to market. We built it to support our business.
Yeah.
And then once we launched our sort of beta version of the product and we started inviting our clients and candidates in and
Yeah.
out, we got really good feedback and they were saying, you know, what is this? You know, how do we sign up? You know, can we try it out? And then me and my business partner, Tim, we looked at it and said, could we launch this? And that's where the tech journey really started. And that was 2018. And by that point, we had a product, you know, we had an MVP.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite ready, but it was good enough to be operational. And we launched. Who would have known COVID was going to happen?
Right.
So, you know, we were absolutely perfectly placed, you know, for something like this. It was a fantastic roller coaster of a journey. We raised a significant amount of funding. We got quite a lot of visibility in the marketplace because of what was happening through COVID. We even got to 1 million subscribers of the
Wow.
product. So it was, yeah, quite interesting, you know, being in that place where we saw an inflection point. However, the hard lessons that we learned were all around technology and the amount of money you have to, you know, put into the business to actually really make a significant dent to compete with the Googles, the
Yeah.
Zooms, and the Teams, and so on. We couldn't really sustain that. You know, we raised a significant amount of money. We couldn't get it to revenue generation. By the time we did, because we didn't have the knowledge and experience, the problem was there were competitors. Zoom and Teams were just taking over the marketplace. So we found ourselves that if we couldn't raise a significant amount of money, then we're going to be left on the back burner. And we took the conscious decision at that point to say, it's working, let it continue running. If it gets to a certain saturation point, then we'll look for an investor to go again. But that point never really came.
Yeah.
So product still exists, you know, it's still out there in the marketplace. We still have sticky customers. We still got development going on, but it's just in the background. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those projects you started and you allow to sort of carry on. And I've gone back into the space which I know a lot about.
Yeah.
And it's something where I love being, which is recruitment. So
Yeah,
that's where I've
amazing.
sort of stepped back into that space in the last 2 years because I got a little bit sidetracked with technology and lost with the big, you know, productization and then taking a tech product to market.
Okay, so I think that leads us quite nicely into, you know, your role at Recruitment Entrepreneur and what you exactly do and how RE would support future founders of businesses in the Middle East and obviously in India as well.
Yeah. Look, for me, you know, the great thing about joining Recruitment Entrepreneur was the fact that I could marry up my sort of 0 to 1 startup type journeys that I've been involved in. I've been investor as well as invested in. So I've seen both sides of the fence as well. So when this came along, it was like, yeah, this is just made, for me personally.
Literally, it
And it
is.
was a chance conversation. My mentor is a guy by the name of Abid Hamid. A lot of people will probably know of him in the recruitment industry, certainly in the UK. We just had a chance conversation. I was at an inflection point. We got talking, and he said, "Well, Recruitment Entrepreneur is growing internationally. The skills you have could, fit in quite well. Let me introduce you to James Khan. Let's have a conversation." I've known of James Khan for quite some time. Always looked up at, what he's achieved in the recruitment space. As I've seen within S3, some people have really done well in this space. Got into a conversation. One thing led to another. It
Yeah.
was just a very easy transition. But the thing that first attracted me to it is very simply, I love working with startups and growth businesses. So I can add a lot of value to those early stage from probably the years of experience I've got with some of the knocks in life, as well as the positive things that we've managed to achieve. So can I help others, to be able to take value of that and make sure they don't make the same mistakes? That's one. Number two, I'm going to be getting involved with businesses that I can grow and see them scale to a point where essentially the model of Recruitment Entrepreneur is to partner up to build businesses which you can then exit within a 5 to 7 year window of starting. But that's probably the uniqueness. So we're the number one global investor in recruitment companies that help you not only raise money, support you through the growth of that business, but then also package and get you ready for exit within a very defined period of time. And this is something we've proven time and time
A lot
again.
of your businesses do sell because most recruitment businesses, even if they've been set up to sell, they don't end up selling. Whereas in Recruitment Entrepreneur, a lot of your businesses do end up selling and selling for quite a lot of money, actually, life-changing money for the founders.
Look, you're right. And I think often as us as founders, when you start up your own business, you never really set your sort of the scene out to say we're going to sell. You set it out because why? You think I'm giving up 75% of the fees that I'm earning and it's going into somebody else's pocket. I know how to do this now, so I should be looking at putting that money back in my pocket. And that's how you typically start. Very few founders look at the vision and say, well, I want to exit. They probably have that in the back of their mind, but don't think about it because it feels like it's a decade or two away
Yeah.
from launching. So first is the awareness that actually you can build a business and you can scale it and you can get it for an exit within a very relatively short period of time. But in doing that, you have to understand that there are certain constituents of value. And we've got a methodology which defines 9 constituents of value. Everything from strategy to support to finance and all the functions of the back office, as well as the guidance, the mentoring, from everybody in the business that will help you in every step of the journey, because what you need on day one is very different to what you need in year 3 or 4, and is completely different to what you need in years 5 to 7 to get ready for an exit. So we've got the complete, sort of package that we can bring, to the recruiter, and it's a partnership. We're not a financial investor. We do invest financially, but this is more of a joint venture partnership where we're working together because if you win, we win.
Yeah.
And we're an investor. We have to see a return on our investment. So we know how to create value, which unfortunately, when you start up as an individual entrepreneur, you probably don't fully understand it. You have some idea, but we've got that methodology, the process, the team, the partnerships in place to be able to really articulate that and then ensure that we take benefit, for the founder and for our investment to ensure we can get to that point in that period of time. So we're very clear, in the approach we take. We're not really there to take a business to 2 decades old and get it to 2,000 people. We sort of build businesses which then other investors will look to purchase because they feel that it's a great structured business, it's a profitable business, and it's not dependent on any one person in the business, and they can then invest to grow to the next phase
Yeah.
of that business.
So the founders that you do want to work with, do you need them to have that clear vision of I want an exit in X amount of years and Recruitment Entrepreneur is going to help me get there? But whether or not they sort of get the chance to working with you, do you expect people to come with that? Or would you be open to someone who's just a bit like, oh, I don't know, I just want to have my own recruitment business, and you kind of take them through that journey and show them that value?
Both
Yeah.
is the honest answer, because most people don't know or don't believe that you can.
Yeah, that's true.
Because let's be honest, I think if we look globally, the stats, and I think about 3% of businesses, in the recruitment industry that start will probably get to a stage where it's created a value where it could exit. And then the number that actually exits is probably even smaller. That's now typically the UK marketplace, is probably the maturest of recruitment industries. So in the UK, where you've got the maturest of businesses, those statistics are still very small. And then when you look at the global landscape, and we've got professional recruitment businesses all over the world now, the number may be even smaller. And a part of it is because you don't create a business to have an exit value in a short period of time. That's one. The second part is you just take the leap of faith because you back yourself as a recruiter. And as a recruiter, you're a great salesperson. You know how to generate business. You know how to create fees, and you know how to maybe hire some people. But do you know how to set up a business which is institutionally run? Because when a buyer buys, and the due diligence that an investor is going to do to buy into that business is significant.
Yeah.
There's a significant amount of due diligence that gets put in place. So if you don't plan at least 2 to 3 years before exit, you probably won't have a business which is going to be exiting at the value which you perceive it to be and what the reality is in the market, if it ever has a value.
Yeah.
Because most of them are just so founder controlled and led. If you take the founder out of the picture, what is the buyer buying?
Yeah.
That's the biggest challenge.
I think it's a big challenge. I mean, for me, even not that I would ever be planning to sell this business to Rec, but yeah, like I'm the business at the end of the day. Like I think if I died tomorrow, there's not going to be a business anymore. So I think a lot of these businesses and a lot of founders actually that I know that I've spoken to myself, they that's the advice they've given you. Just make sure that now you've hired staff, that the business doesn't depend on you, that if you did die tomorrow, the business can still go on. Not for a sell value, but just in general, like you don't, you want to make sure that the business is not as dependent on me, because then I can take a holiday and I can go somewhere. But for people who do want to sell, I think it's very important that they've got capable people and advisors like yourselves to be able to run the business and do something.
Yeah, look, and typically, look, we don't run recruitment companies. The founder or the CEO of the business will run the recruitment business. We will guide, mentor, support, provide everything from the back end, so you don't have to worry about raising invoices, chasing debt, doing the compliance, making sure all your regulations, making sure your terms are correctly aligned, HR policies, all these things which you don't realize when you first launch a business and you've started your own.
It takes up a lot of time.
Exactly. But you want to focus on what you know how to do best. So it's a lonely place, right? For any entrepreneur, when you start up, it's very, very difficult. But you've got to surround yourself with the right people. You do have to have an idea of why you're doing this and where you're taking it. And some people just want to have a lifestyle. Yeah. And that's fine, right? It doesn't have to, not every business has to exit. But when we look at, working with a founder, we're looking at ones that we can potentially provoke them to think about, have you ever thought about being able to do this in that? And what does that mean to you? Because again, what does exit mean? It means financial freedom, choices, right? For me, success is choice.
Yeah.
Where do I go? When do I wake up? What do I eat? Who do I sit with? Who can I influence? And all those types of things. It's choices, right? And often we're not in that position to be able to do that, but money gives you that to some degree.
Yeah.
Time gives you that to another degree. And then also the people that you keep as your company also provide that, because if you're never going to open your eyes and see what the opportunities are there, how are you going to ever think about things you don't know about? So exit is definitely not something most people visualize in their mind. But the fact that we've exited in the last 8 years, 15 businesses, it's been life changing for those founders. That's the real key thing. And who would have thought with any of those founders, if you speak to any of those founders on the day they joined or the day we started the conversations, they thought they could exit in that 5 to 7 year window. I think they'd say, never thought. We believe that we're partnered with the right organization, but we never really could touch and feel it, right? Until you get to that point. And then it becomes quite life changing. And in between all that, it's like a mini MBA, that the founder's doing, because everything they thought they knew, they're now learning it because they're working with a partner that has gone through it numerous times. So now you're actually a well-rounded entrepreneur and business person. So let's look at it. Fast forward. You sell, you make some money, gives you some choices and financial freedom. You got money behind you. You could go again. You could go and do something new. So that's the thing which I think a lot of founders, and I'm the same. When I started up, I didn't really think about it in that way. I wanted to make more money, definitely. I wanted to have control of how I run my business and what I do and who I work with and who I don't work with. But I never thought that I could do it where I could build something of exitable value. And when I did get to that point, I didn't really have a value in it. So, and I spent 10 years doing that. So if I look at now, if I've done that, I could have flipped 2 companies by then. I wish I'd known about Recruitment Entrepreneur.
If only we could turn back time.
Exactly. Exactly that.
Okay, well, I think that conversation leads us quite well because obviously you work the Dubai and Indian markets. So why do you think Dubai is such a great place for founders to set up their recruitment companies?
So look, I think first and foremost, there's plenty of job opportunities. So, there's plenty of servicing to customers that are available here. That's one. So the market is definitely growing. It may have stagnated because a lot of the world is sort of either flatlined, and some countries have seen massive drops, in the hiring capabilities in countries. But generally speaking, I think this region is still going through growth. And certainly when I look at India as well, India, again, is still on a growth path. There has been corrections in technology, and we have had corrections here in the Middle East market on technology. But then when I look at the wider, I wouldn't say Dubai is just the market. I would say the UAE and then Middle East.
Yeah.
When we look at it from a wider perspective, and if you look at what's happening in Saudi Arabia, there is just so much activity from a people perspective going on. So why would you not consider taking advantage of that? Number one, the market has matured. It's at that tipping point. This is my personal view on it. Whereas when you look at it even a decade ago, it was still very much in its infancy. And people were probably moving to the Middle East for lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that still doesn't exist. It does. But now it's matured and people are now here a bit more serious about growing businesses, not just here for a lifestyle, because the opportunity also exists in the marketplace.
But it's also easier to start a business here than it was 10 years ago, isn't it?
Great point. Yeah. No, you're absolutely bang on, right? When I started in 97, it was difficult. Trust me, it was difficult. And we had a 51% local partner, selecting the right partner, and there was plenty of horror stories back then, that took place. But you're right. It's far, far easier now. I think it's easier not just from a compliance and regulatory perspective, but it's also easier because there's so many like-minded people, in similar boat to you that you can also lean into to ensure that you do get the right support around you as well. And then you've got plenty of businesses, our local partners, Wayfinders have multiple businesses in there which help you open up your business, ensure you got payroll solutions, and your HR is intact and so on. You have workspaces, you understand recruitment and the whole purpose.
Marketing is such a big part of it as well.
So all these things, and when you put all those things together, you've got a lot more support now here. Before, you tended to have to come out and look for it and see, and then you trial and error and find the right partner or the right supplier. It's a lot easier now, and I think it's become a lot more cosmopolitan as well. Culturally, it's changed quite a lot from what I can see, and certainly from the comparison to 97, to where we are today. So that's why this market is exciting for us, because it's still growing, and there's a lot more growth if we look at the wider Middle East region. And that's why we've actually opened up a fund, to say we're looking at backing. We'll look to back 12 to 15 founders through the course of this year. And that, I think, is still only scratching the surface of the potential opportunity in the
Yeah,
market.
there's some amazing people here in recruitment and outside of recruitment. I think for any founder aspiring, I mean, I moved here to set up my own business and I didn't have a business back in the UK. I wanted to do it here. And I think there'll be a lot of people kind of thinking about doing the same. So what would you say to these people who are thinking about making a move, either with their business or to set up a business to the UAE?
Yeah, look, without getting into too much detail, I think the first thing is you've got to have that leap of faith. And I use that phrase quite a lot, because if you haven't got that mindset, you're going to struggle. If you think you're just going to wing it and try it and see, then you haven't taken that leap, and then you haven't got the faith or the real drive and ambition to want to make it happen. You're just trying it out. It's not easy if you're trying it out in a place like Dubai. It's expensive, number one. So you have to bear that in mind. You have to have money behind yourself. Find a partner. I would say that's the advice. It doesn't have to be a financial partner. Find a partner that is going to be able to support and work with you, share the good, the bad, at those times, because it becomes easier. This is probably one of the things I've learned through my career. If you have a vested partner, great. If at the very least you have a supportive partner or a mentor that you can lean into in your industry sector, better. But vested partners always better, because the unvested ones, or the ones that are just there personally to support you, they've got other day jobs. They may not be there when you really need them. So try to find a partner and find the right partner. And it could be a co-founder. It could be somebody that's coming together. It could be somebody like Recruitment Entrepreneur. It could be just a financial partner that has some support. But most financial partners don't really provide support. They just say, well, there's the money because we believe in you, believe in your product, believe in your service.
You're on your own.
Go and do it. Right. So I don't think those, having been on both sides of the fence, I don't think those are the best financial partners until a later part of the journey. Once you've probably seen the growth, and then it's more financial input just to take it to another level. However, if you've got somebody vested that knows your business, and then they can bring experience, guidance, support, mentoring, and money, and some of the services that you maybe don't want to do, take it, right? That's the easiest route, by far. And that's probably the I would say the advice I would give to any entrepreneur. Try not to go it alone. It's lonely. It's difficult.
Lonely.
Yeah, it's
difficult.
It's great when it's great. And actually, as James often says, if it's going to go wrong, it probably will. Right? If something is going to go wrong, it probably will. Right? So if you bear that in mind, then if you're doing it by yourself, it becomes very difficult, because then you're very reactive. Here you are when it's going well, everything's going well, you're hiring people, you're bringing in new customers, you're servicing them, everyone's talking, well. I mean, we had COVID, right? Who would have thought? I mean, the recruitment industry was pretty wiped off the face of the earth. It was a very, very tough time. So some people survived, some didn't. But everybody went through a very, very tough time at that period. So if you had somebody sitting next to you who had your best interests as well as their interests in whatever they were doing to guide you and mentor you, it probably would have been easier.
Yeah, but to be honest, even when you're being successful and you are doing well, so I had a moment, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where I made 2 deals in one day. It was great. Like I was like, this is fantastic. And then I was like, I wish I had a boss. I wish I had someone to come and tap me on the shoulder and say, well done, and book me a spa day or buy me something, bottle of champagne. And I was just like, on my own. Yeah, my friends are proud of me, and my family and everyone's happy, and my team. But it's actually nice to have someone who's kind of there with you, if that makes sense. So I think, it would have been nicer.
I think you make a really good point as well, right? So friends and family are really important, because you need your support network around you, because they know you, right? They can probably read you better. And when we start on this entrepreneurial journey, we're absolutely on fire and nothing's going to phase us, right? And we tend to probably put on a front face when things are going bad in the back, but your friends and family will probably know that because they know you. So it's really important to have that side of it as well. If you don't have the support, then it becomes really difficult, because when you do hit that bad patch, you're putting a brave face on. Sometimes you just need somebody there to say, look, you get through it, right?
Yeah, and
You don't need the advice, right?
a lot of people do get like genuinely lonely as well. I found people I've spoken to where they don't actually have any friends, and what they do is just work for years and years and years and years, and then they end up with no family, single, no friends, and all they have is a business. So I think it's important for people to remember to kind of nurture their personal relationships as well when they are setting up, because at the end of the day, that's what you can fall back on.
Yeah. And I think another thing, probably could be advice, is also focus on what you know how to do well. Because when you set up a business and then you suddenly get reactive and you're falling into all the things that maybe you haven't done, because when you're working inside a company or a corporate, it was done for you.
Yeah.
My MacBook's not working or my machine's not working. Okay, just call IT, somebody will come and fix it for you. Do it yourself now. When your client hasn't paid, to make payments, right? And money's not come in. You have to do your credit control yourself. Change in regulation, for employment. I have to find a contract, or I have to pay a lawyer, and so on. So all these things, everything, that's the reactive side to it. And even if you plan for that, you're still never going to get it right first time, every time. And you're going to have to keep on adapting it. So often what you find is what you're really good at then gets taken over by the administrative elements of just running a business and the challenges of running a business. And challenges are not just when things go bad. It's also when you're growing.
Yeah.
And you're growing fast. You need to deliver something. You don't have enough heads. You need to find more people. Now you have to go and hire people. You have to retrain them. You have to develop them to make sure they appear in the same way that you want them to present themselves. So it's good, both sides, right? It's difficult when you're growing fast because you need to make sure you structure the business well enough, have proper support in place. And it's also the same when you're having problems. So people think, well, I only need a partner when there's a problem. No, you need it also when you're in a good place. Just imagine if you were banking £100,000 or $100,000 a month in profit, and you'll get to it at some point. What do you now do with that? Do you now become a lifestyle and say, okay, I'm now earning this much money, I'll take out as much as I need. But again, you're not creating any wealth. Or do you then roll the dice and then grow? What do you do? There's no right answer to it.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own reasons. So it's driven by what you want as a founder, as an entrepreneur, why you've done this to set it up, what you can achieve, and have you thought about, what the exit is? Exits also are multiple exits, right? Multiple ways of exiting. You could exit just purely financial. You sell your stake, you spend maybe a year, maybe 2 years with the business that buys you to do a handover. And then you go off into the sunset and you chill back and you do nothing, right? That's one exit. Another way is you may merge with the company that's going to buy you. So you get a payout. You join the business because they're still growing and they're going again. And you would then join that business to maybe have a potential secondary exit in some way further down the line. So, there's lots of different ways, you can be involved. I mean, we've recently done an exit, a UK-based business, very recent. We just concluded at the back end of January. Very interesting exit. I just wanted to sort of share this little bit of knowledge with you. Business in 22 was doing fantastically well. 23, obviously the market corrected. Their EBIT, which is the profitability of the business, probably dropped by about 60% from 22 into 23. And obviously, as a founder, you feel a little bit now, do I really want to continue doing this? Because now I was doing this and now I'm here. I've sort of lost my mojo a little bit. They wanted to exit. But now you've got a problem because the business is not doing enough EBIT compared to 22. So anybody you try to exit to is going to be giving you a smaller valuation on your business. And when you're in that situation, they said, that's fine. Whatever our EBIT is,
just get me out.
We will get out. I'll settle for 2 times EBIT, which is, it's a good return, but I wouldn't say that's something that us as an investor would guide you and advise you to do. But we also don't want to force you to stay in a business which you're now already agreed that you want to do an exit on. So we said, okay, look, fine. Let us look at this. Let us go and speak to the typical buyers of these businesses. Cut long story short, we managed to get them an 8 times EBIT, where they were willing to accept the 2 times. And this is where the value of somebody that's working on behalf and with you to achieve the exit.
That's life changing.
Completely. And the great thing on the back of it is the founders of that business actually joined the business that bought them because they're on a secondary growth path. They're earning more money than they were now as a salary and commissions from what they were before, although they were earning more because they had dividends and so on. So at a payout, they're earning more money, and they're now on a secondary wave to do a second exit with the bigger business. So, it's just worked out perfectly where they were thinking of just giving it up for two times EBIT. And if you did that, you probably would have walked away and that would have been it. And then you would have pocketed that money and decided to go again, maybe one day.
Yeah.
And here, that's the perfect scenario. So those are probably the things we can bring to the table, and people that you partner up with can maybe open up doors, for your business.
Open up doors and also open up people's mindset and kind of just even make them aware of these opportunities, because that's a great story. Well, look, that's a great story to kind of end the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. It was great to have you on.
Thank you, Martina. Wish you all the best with the business, and thanks for inviting me to the podcast.
Thank you.